I watched the Avatar Aang movie on Paramount Plus, and I gotta be honest, I wasn't exactly moved by it. About halfway through the runtime, it felt like I was watching a filler episode for the original series, and it didn't matter how this episode ended. So when it ended, I wasn't blown away, but I wasn't let down either. Animation is absolutely gorgeous. The fight choreography is insane as to be expected. I think the style of the animation might turn a few people off. I didn't mind it. I respected the fact they were trying to modernize the look of the Avatar, and I think they did a good job. Where the style really clashes with the story is towards the end, where some of the fight scenes look like they could be pulled straight out of JJK or maybe Demon Slayer. It doesn't look or feel very Avatar esque, and honestly, the moments in this movie that feel very Avatar esque are few and far between. Sure, there's references and callbacks. There's a lot of fan service in this movie, but it loses the magic of what the original and even Avatar Korra's story had that really, pulled it along. It's a real slap in the face that they marketed this movie as being an older version of the Avatar crew, a more mature storyline for them, when the only thing that is older about these characters is their voices. Nothing about their conversations or relationships are more complex or nuanced than they were as children. Their actions don't speak to a greater sense of responsibility. You would expect that when we are reintroduced to these characters, they are busy laying the groundwork for what's to become their legacy in Avatar Korra story. But that's not what we see at all. We see Zuko as the Fire Lord of a Fire Nation that is completely unchanged from the Fire Nation that started this war and conquered all this land and caused so much destruction. You would think that he's busy demilitarizing the Fire Nation, dissolving this cult like Fire Lord Fuhrer nonsense and establishing maybe more of a bureaucracy or democracy, but that's not what he's doing at all. It all feels like, set dressing, like someone called him on the phone and he just hangs up what he's doing and leaves. You would think that Toph is busy teaching other people metal bending and starting the origins of this metal bending police force. But no, she's just kicking some sparring partner's ass and bragging about being the best. This is also a failure on the plot for not addressing the concerns of a post-war society. You're telling me there are no parts of the Fire Nation that have fractured off and are rebelling, continuing this war? You're telling me there are no pirates that are trafficking and stolen weapons and goods? You're telling me there are no war criminals that have gone into hiding in different parts of the kingdom? I'm willing to cut the movie some slack because a 90-minute movie can't do the same level of world building that a full series can. But ignoring all of these factors kind of leaves us with a plot that feels like it could happen at any time. Like the events that happened before and the events that are to follow in Korra's timeline feel like they have very little to do with what's going on right now. So about halfway through the runtime, none of this feels significant at all. I think it's pretty funny that Aang spends the most time with Katara, and they discuss, his culture not dying out, and he lands on trying to risk his life to find some mystical staff that can make airbenders. But the conversation of them having kids never comes up. Like, you have a staff that can make airbenders. This movie feels more like a D&D campaign set in the Avatar universe because that is the only angle I can see the writers coming from. Because when is it ever a good idea to write a magic MacGuffin into a story that completely breaks or rewrites the rules of already established sci-fi, science fiction, whatever you have in your story? When is it ever a good idea to just break those rules only for this part of it, only for this episode or this movie, and then go back on it like nothing mattered in the first place? The villains in this movie are completely unremarkable and unmemorable. I'm going to talk about the group first, the Denied, which is an extremist group of non-benders that think benders hold too much sway and political power in the world. And I was initially excited about their inclusion because we got to see a precursor of the conflicts in Avatar Korra storyline. But then about halfway through the movie, you get more screen time from the perspective of the Denied, and you realize that this is a well-trained, well-funded, well-supplied militia group that is trying to accomplish literally nothing. I cannot for the life of me understand what their goals were outside of just being an antagonist for Avatar Aang and his friends. And even the movie doesn't take them seriously because once they're stopped, you just forget about them. And one of them, who is not a complete psycho, I guess gets pardoned, and then we don't even follow up with the rest of them. It was honestly baffling to see them take a conflict as complex as benders and non benders living together and make it a focal point for a character that we don't give a shit about and I don't even think gets a name. I was really hoping the storyline with Taga and the staff was going to have some kind of misdirection. I thought that the true nature of the staff would have been lost to history and obscured by folklore, and when they finally got it, it wouldn't exactly be what they were promised. I had a hard time taking the exposition from the ancient avatar about Taga at face value, and I was completely convinced that there was going to be another side to his story. I naively hoped it was the ancient avatar that was deceiving Aang and was misconstruing events to put the blame on Taga, and that's why he was banished. I thought that would have been a misdirection to show a villainous avatar that used their special power and their staff to try and conquer land and be an imperialist. But this is a very straightforward movie and a very predictable plot. And once I realized that this is where the movie was going, that Taga was our villain, I really checked out. Because is Taga really a villain, or did he just happen to live during a time with the weakest and softest avatar known to man? Because this avatar let her disciples get massacred by earthbenders, did not help defend them at all. And then when one of her disciples wants to help, get some get back, she's just like, yeah, nah, sorry, I can't do nothing about that. I know the avatars are meant to be these pacifistic peacekeepers, but the ancient avatar freezing Taga in a mountain, isn't that worse than killing him? Or isn't that more or less the same thing? Isn't that synonymous with murdering someone? Her freezing him at the top of a mountain sounds more like the plan of someone who's trying to unleash their disciple to continue their plan thousands of years later. But her being the avatar and trying to spare life, but also trying to entrap him somewhere that no one's gonna find him, but not kill him. That just sounds like an evil avatar. This sounds like an evil person. So overall, it's a really shitty Avatar movie. It's a decent movie in general. It's not boring. It's fun to watch. But if you're an Avatar fan, you've probably already seen it or you're going to watch it. It's just another example of a big blockbuster TV series going out sad when it comes to its final season or its spin-off or its adaptation, whatever. We can't have anything that's good stay good for too long.